Good morning and welcome to the LDE CFS talks on sustainability and circularity. Today we welcome Dewi Hartkamp as presenter. Dewi is Program Manager Sign at Glastuinbouw Nederland. And Dewi will share recent developments in circular greenhouse horticulture with special emphasis on the importance of collaboration and community engagement. Dewi, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I am very pleased that people are still joining at this time of the year. And my talk is about how to farm Europe's bioeconomy landscapes when also considering that this bioeconomy can be considered at different levels. And what I am trying to illustrate will be that we have circularity at different scales, connecting agricultural sectors and even to connect industry and regions to each other to really get to the competitive strength of horticulture in Europe. So please bear with me that I have a lot of sheets, but this is also because some of them I will go through pretty quickly. So this is the Dutch Foundation for Innovation in Greenhouse Horticulture is a non-profit organization not helping individual entrepreneurs, but more about strategic innovations for the future. And it was constructed in 1997 by 5 innovative growers. And so I'm the program manager and we collaborate with a lot of the green ports. So when we're looking at our innovation process, we usually explore what are recent developments in society. We try to come up with what is the role with greenhouse horticulture in this and to create future visions. Also to try out in several pilots and underneath you see signaal, that's a Dutch word to sign. And this is also to signal that once we have done some explorations, we usually summarize the people working on it and the pilots that are going on. And once it's ready to scale up, this is something where venture comes in and we have to leave it for the entrepreneurship. So already in 2010, we were looking into material flows. This was a study by Metabolic, actually inside of the greenhouses. And people said, well, you're completely mad to look at material flows. So how do certain loops of CO2 and also sugars flow? You can have a diversity of crops in the greenhouse horticulture. But actually, when the energy crisis came in 2023, we saw that there was a lot of cultivation mixing. So we already know that the greenhouse horticulture does everything to close loops on water and energy, or to slow loops, I would say also. And what happens with the materials once they have been grown and harvested, that's the subject that has been looked into by bio-based programs. These were already before the word circularity existed. And left top hand corner, that's the Greenport Venlo, and we created several collaborations with, for instance, interior paneling for public sector or even for Gispen, which is a very renowned facility provider. And in 2020, we created to the right-hand top corner, the Living Lab, where a lot of people with makers with creative ideas could make products from the fibers. So somewhere 2019, 2020, it was more of a subject that crosses multiple themes in the government, not only climate change, also how to prevent biodiversity loss, to prevent emissions and delivery risks. So how can Europe become more autonomous? And the specific goal is to reduce the use of primary raw materials by 50%. So not only your carbon vision, but also very concrete application of reduction goals to raw materials. What's coming inside of the greenhouse and what's going out. What was particularly a point of attention was that it's not only about this recycling and reduction of emissions, but we're actually seeking for higher use of resources. So the materials we use now were mainly used for compost, and of course soil organic matter is very important, but also looking into side streams and biomass loops for a new higher value. So are there compounds that we need for the bioeconomy? And obviously this also links into regional trade-offs. So I could also propose the Ellen MacArthur butterfly model, but what I'm trying to say here is that the circular strategies are not about recycling in value chains that are linear, but it's also about making new loops and new chains, which also create new value in new chains. So new people, new partnerships are needed to really consider what you are producing in biomass in a different way. And again, this can be seen at several levels. It's at the greenhouse level, it's at the regional level with raw material cycles with other sectors. And it's also about how certain products we deliver for society, like potted plants, how those materials can come back to the greenhouse in service models or what have you. This is another presentation or visualization of the different scale levels. Already in 1990, people were thinking of microgreens in very circular refrigerators, up to really agro parks where people also live and work and have everything nearby. So when we're talking about this biomass recycling, it's actually not only about fibers. 90% of a plant is water. So you're looking also into a total use of fibers and the pressed juices. And if we're talking about multiple purposes, we're of course very aware that a lot was done with biogas and bioenergy, but we're looking for additional loops, not only products, but maybe also heat and CO2, which are lost during these processes. How can we put them in the process itself to make it also less dependent on raw materials? So we started in 2020 with this innovation program, and we're looking into side stream biomass, nutrients, growing materials, packaging and materials. So that's everything you need to use in a greenhouse itself. It even means that maybe we need to construct a different greenhouse, the biocircular housing. So we can actually house our personnel with bio-based housing and biodiversity in the neighborhood of the greenhouse. So if you're interested in knowing some of the applications we worked on, we published this with the Zero Waste program of Belgium University. But in this document, and the link is below, you can also find all the different applications of biomass we found. So that's only one component of the whole program, but still it's a kind of illustrative which directions you will go, and also more important, which industry you have to connect to and what their specifications are. Because a lot of times we think we have gold in hands, but we need to connect that to actually the product specifications. So if we're looking at one of the first projects was actually all about fibers and how can we make them without resins, and so the right-hand side was the Floriade trajectory with fibers into mycelium products for airplanes. We called it growing airplanes. Up to the left bottom, it's actually in the greenhouse producing acoustic materials so that the packaging process can be done with more ease for the people to be there. Talking about nutrient recovery, we can get, instead of the fossil produced nitrogen or phosphates from mines outside of Europe, we can look into nutrient recovery systems, our own waste streams, but obviously food waste processing and manure And the last, but not certainly least, is where there's a lot of phosphate is in the wastewater. And this has become a very potential area of gaining nutrients back into the food system. So we have some projects on how can you actually do this in a very neat way, clean technology for phosphate recycling from sewage sludge. So the human is actually the biggest leak in the whole nutrient system, because we are putting phosphates into the ground, but in 2027 this will stop. So we found some new technologies to produce phosphoric acid, and we can use this in the greenhouses, but also, of course, in the agriculture itself. If we don't use it in the agriculture, there is a lot of interest for it in ecochemicals, such as fire extinguishing products. When we look at substrates, obviously the alternative to substrates can be wood fibers, smaller wood fibers from the wood milling. And this is a very much growing area, but it is still lacking the volumes we need. So in 2017, there were 6 wood refiners, but in 2024, 50 worldwide. And that's, yeah, if you want to use this in replacing potted peat for potted plants, you still have a long way to go. So we're looking already in regionally, what kind of fibers can we use to replace peat? Well, I just found interesting this pilot, not of our own, but this is again a connection between agricultural sectors. Sometimes it's forgotten that we have become kind of thinking in silos. But the wool is actually a very nice product to use as a replacement of peat in substrates, because it has a very stable nutrient content. So that means you don't need to adapt your fertilization program. And if it can be the same quality all the time, then it's valued very highly. To the right, there are pellets, so you can also use it as a fertilization in your own garden. But obviously for the greenhouse horticulture, we're interested in substituting peat. Well, if we look at peat substitutes, we can also look at replacing rock wool. And of course, this is much more of a challenge, because these materials have to be in producing growing media for more than 10-11 months. So it has to be resistant to breakdown of cellulose. So we looked into several organic blocks, and since recently this market is becoming much larger to replace also the fossil produced rock wool. Some of the early systems for protein, so additional proteins, were aquaponic systems, so that the water would be recycled. And even in 2013, we were growing oysters on drain water from the greenhouse horticulture, and there was even a restaurant to sell the oysters. But yeah, in the end, it didn't grow. And what you can also do is not only produce additional protein, but these mealworms or what have you, insects in the greenhouse can produce additional heat and CO2. Obviously, we're not there yet. We have to optimize those systems. As I said earlier, it's not only about the fibers, also the pressure juices and effluents you can be used for the bioeconomy, and everything from detergents. So in Corona time, we had produced with greenhouse or Greenport West Holland and Varta, we produced some disinfectants. But the whole world of bioplastics and functional chemicals like fire extinguishing products and wound healing is still open. Another pilot was on producing proteins from the leaves. We have a lot of leaves in tomato, not so much in the other crops, and we can refine with the GASA technology. We can refine from their really pure proteins that we already have in the residues. Additional plant production systems, so new systems are of course the algae and in this case lemna, so the duckweed, which have a very nice amino acid profile, which is really good for humans. And this is again some colleagues in the south, so in Ago have a pilot production site where they have also produced some food grade products, and we are actually eating lemna burgers last month. If we're looking into systems again, we had a project with the Dream Team about how could a circular system be constructed for Mars, and obviously plants are key to these systems with the whole issue of not only producing food but also how to exchange CO2 and oxygen. So a couple of years ago, I was in the EU and they were talking about the bioeconomy, and obviously completely from the vision of to decarbonize the society. And this was also with the vision of land-dependent biomass, so mainly forestry actually, and not so much the residue viewpoint. And slowly but surely, certain documents led to the idea that also farming has a role, so not only horticulture but also agriculture has a role in this bioeconomy. And there the GRC, so the Joint Research Center, had a 10-year review report on biomass supply, and 75% of the bio waste is actually not captured. That could be food, but mainly is biomass that we're currently not using and is very much needed to produce also the bioeconomy for chemical and derived materials. So it's not only about replacing fossil fuels, it's also about replacing fossil carbon. And to the right-hand side, that's something I borrowed from Biocircular program from Kirsten Steinbusch. So she's actually predicting that there's a very much need to produce plastics, more food packaging, etc. So these are not small numbers. It's really a big challenge how we will create enough materials for the packaging industry. And I put it here again from the EU source. So 20% will have to be bio-based, if not more. And 55% of the recycling will contribute to making sure we have enough materials. Okay. But then again, recycling at this moment is very difficult. So if we look back to our horticultural ecosystem, we have, of course, our many suppliers, technology partners, all focusing mainly on systems inside of the greenhouse. And the question is, besides several very eager startups, do we have actually an appropriate innovation system to really farm this bioeconomy? Yeah, so this is all technology driven. It's very difficult to see if they are connecting enough with other agricultural sectors, and at least also the interest of industry is there to create chains with biomass. But I think there's a lot still to do on how to innovate together. And then we come to the point that obviously Netherlands is very much regionally rooted. And the Nota Ruimte, which is one of the most important documents saying where things should be housed. They do say that greenhouse horticulture is of national importance and has a very important role to play. Even the green ports as ecosystem is mentioned. But actually, the look into crossovers and creating regional symbiosis is not there. So if we talk about industrial clusters worldwide, but also in Europe, we have a couple of centers where they have tried to find industrial symbiosis, not yet with biomass so much, but more energy and water. But we're trying to do this also in Hoek van Holland. So the Dutch name is Bonnepolder, but it's just above Rotterdam. And we had a couple of students from Delft, YIP, who tried to see which actors are there in the neighborhood and how to come to a master plan for this bioeconomy, circular loops. Yeah, it was very excited to see that we indeed have companies that are willing to look into residues as resources, but actually you need a governance structure above it to make sure that you can function above the individual entrepreneurs. And also considering that each region, if it's a metropole region or if it's a more rural region, has to make its own choices which circular loops are more interesting. We, of course, arises the question, who's going to decide what to do where? So who gets to decide? That's also a question that in the EU was posed. So we all have these functions of space, food production, jobs, housing, nature, etc., etc. And who gets to decide if there will be still a farm in Europe in specific countries? And if we make the optimal model not only for production but for the bioeconomy contribution, then that system may look very differently. So we obviously have a lot of landscape trade-offs, and the question is who's going to decide how to plan that region. So this I borrowed from Food Law, which is a very interesting discussion. Obviously, it should be contributing to future generations. So let them decide what they find as important and not let's not stay into old structures. And obviously, the public sector will have a challenge to create a participatory space where also you allow for things without inhibiting new circular systems. And then, of course, there are rules of play, but we no longer try to rule out every risk of all of these new endeavors. So we're talking about cross-sectoral integration and multivariable optimization, not only production, local demands, but also regional demands. And this must all become more value-driven and not only cost-driven. So how can we do that? Just an example from Scandinavia, where they're also connecting their several sectors, and where public sector is actually looking into this way ahead of what the next step is. And what I want to introduce now is, if we really say how to integrate this, we're also talking about how to include stewardship. And stewardship is all about creating trust and showing that what we are doing makes sense and being open about the structures. And there we really have to come away from the individual systems, the individual data systems, and make sure that we have a bridge for this value creation, and we can actually show the impact. So you can make a life cycle analysis of one fertilizer, but that doesn't say anything about the impact of your regional cluster. And this is an idea by Tiffany Tsu from Springtide Strategy about Solara. Solara is a system where it doesn't matter who owns the data. You are actually creating operability to connect the data on performance, and also to introduce actually steering mechanisms on there, creating transparency. And this means that all of the clusters can be evaluated in the same way. So we have all these frameworks and different certification programs, but how actually to talk to the outside world. And it can be done, but who will do it? So try to create an open source platform for all of these data, from which one platform can talk to different certification or retail channels or what have you. So we have all of these layers of data, and we have all of these questions that we can get out of one platform, and that could be a solution of at least building some trust. So where I wanted to end is that we used to decide in central public meeting places, but actually the people got to choose what should be done. And this is an Agora, and obviously you need entrepreneurs to then fill in this demand for the new bioeconomy farming innovations. And yeah, this is how do we come away from how it is arranged now, which is an old-fashioned way, to how can we create a public meeting space where we actually can create different systems. And this, I will not have time to explain this, but this is our next step for SIGN, a next program to make sure that we involve citizen stewardship and a different way of looking into greenhouses and what they produce. And also to say, well, this means that we need access to a critical infrastructure, could be land, could be energy networks. So I'll keep it at that. And besides myself, we have Dominique van der Hoeven, who is a specialist on regional spatial planning. And Marijn van Doorn is working on, for instance, circular fertilizers. So I would like to keep it at that, because there's also a time for dialogue.
Okay, thank you, Dewi. Really a wide variety of topics, and also many challenges, if I hear you right. Who can I give the floor for a question or a remark?
Well, maybe a question is, yeah.
Peter.
Hello, Dewi. Thank you for your talk. You mentioned, as Wood said, that there are a lot of we see that a lot of, if things become a success, not only depends on the possibilities that are presented by research, but very, very much by business case.
Yeah.
What changes with significant impact are positive in the business cases, and do you expect to be implemented in the coming 5 years, for example?
Yeah. So what I see is that we try to make business cases for these new products and new collaborations, but we're still waiting for the economics, which are still very linear. And yesterday was also again a session on a lot of people have nice ideas and they are very convinced about their product, but no one is buying them. And why is that? And so obviously there's our supply chains, which are still old. And I have found that the only way that you can speed this process up is actually to create with an interested party at the other side. So not for, but with. And this means that you need to come to some kind of new entrepreneurship or new collaboration to be able to find those specifications of a new product. So not we have an interesting product for you, but no, you are needing some biopolyester, or you are needing some materials. And how can we design a process to create new materials for your process? Because yesterday as well, there was a party of really intellectual TNO processing engineers, and they had a very interesting product as biopolymer from fibers with fire extinguishing capacity. And we saw that they had the idea about the product ready. They just couldn't sell it because it was too expensive. And the other way around is that you create something that is needed by this industry of plastics. So that's at the product level. But more interesting is at the regional level. So, for instance, our Bonnepolder case, where we had the students, you can make more efficient the energy and the water and the material flows if you keep it regional. If you come to certain appointments in the region about how to exchange those materials. Another example is for biodiversity. There's a lot on pest control. If you do it all individual, and this is maybe easy to understand, if 10 companies in a region do pest control individually, and they all have to put out 10 chemical boxes, just for the example, but they can also together organize a service of predator birds. If they do it together, it's possible. If they do it individually, it's not. So yeah, to think from a cluster and to think from a community will be a different business model. So actually, I'm saying the business model doesn't work because you're creating value and you're not looking for monetary systems with 2 or 3 cents more. That's not going to work. And that's actually the challenge for next year for me is how to find new financing models that are not only on cost, but on longer term relationships. So it actually asks for a different business model.
Thank you. That's a challenge.
I don't know if it's an exact answer to your question, but I just mentioned several perspectives on different products or services you would need to evaluate.
Yes, fine. You answered on the product innovation, but I was also thinking about energy, heat.
Yeah.
How do the yes we change in less peat the.
Yeah, so for instance, about the energy in the Bonnepolder, you can actually go off grid and even as a service store the energy coming from sea because it comes from the sea on to the wall. Yeah, I don't know the name of the piece where it comes to land, but there, of course, you can also see how to create these regional energy clusters. But this is something I usually don't dive into because it's a work of my colleague. So I leave energy to the energy specialists.
Okay, thank you.
There's a message in the chat, Ruud, from Irma. I don't know if it, Irma, you want to comment on it before we move to the next question?
Okay, let's see. Co-production.
No, I don't want to comment. I'm here for the first time, so but it's very interesting what I see, and my background is more in landscape and forestry, and this is a thing. Hoe heet dat? One of my ancestors was an idea. It was co-production, and if you produce something, then you always think what is going to happen with all the other material which is coming from it. And that was before my age, and I'm becoming 60 now. So yeah, it's very interesting.
No, I like the word co-production because if a certain area, also in the Bonnepolder, needs, for instance, seatings to relax in nature, and you can make a collaboration. So it doesn't have to exchange all the money and all the chain and all the you prevent marketing budget and you prevent all kinds of things. So I like the co-production formula. Yeah.
Just an idea. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Dewi, for your interesting talk. You sketch a very large number of opportunities to make the sector more circular. So it's great that there are so many opportunities, but at the same time, you or the sector cannot do everything. So do you anticipate to make some choices, what to work on, what to give priority between all these different options? And how, if so, how could you make choices? How could you set priorities for certain, let's say, options to make the sector more circular?
Well, that's not so difficult to answer. In the first place, we have, of course, the Growers Association, who is the interest of all growers. It has to look into. So that's something that has been running for years. So energy, water, plant health, and labor. And there are some confidence with government about what needs to be improved. So the peat replacement has come from market, but also the packaging slowly but surely comes into legislation. But there are a lot of chances. So that's on the one hand side, the obligations, the things you must do. And on the other hand, there are chances to deploy the circular economy from the region. And how to prioritize, I think that the role of sign is at least to wake up and to show inspiring examples. So I visited last month, I visited the cluster of greenhouse horticulture in Emmen, which is very often forgotten. And they were very eager to start there with their organic substrates and delivering them to the open agriculture, and also to valorize their effluents. So it starts with inspiration, and then the entrepreneurs, they will at least see what at their level can be done in the region. But I see a much bigger challenge that I'm only one person, and I can show some interesting strategic routes. But to be competitive in Europe, this needs much more energy, let's say human energy, to actually get these innovation routes further ahead. And there where it's obvious, like substrates or packaging, or that's very easy. But now the challenge is, how can Europe become more self-sufficient and reliable on a bioeconomy? And there, of course, there are the interests of many more parties. So there, and there's the fossil industry, and there are many more parties that are determining what is the game. And I think that there should be an increased visibility in Brussels. There should be an increased connection with industry, and there should be an increased, even in the Netherlands, connection between agricultural sectors. It's very difficult. And the food industry, which we have in Netherlands, is very strong. So they are upcycling all kinds of ingredients, but there is a gap between the farming of Northwest Europe and actually the food industry. There are some programs, Food Valley tries to do some things, but there's really a lack of connection. So I think and the food upcycling, it will go anyway. And there are companies in the Netherlands such as Rodeburg or Nijssen, which are doing this already 50 years. But now to see the new routes to really become self-sufficient, not many people are looking in that direction.
Can I summarize that? You say we show the options and we leave the selection of certain options to the industry, to the sector? Is that?
Well, of course, what we also do is try to see how large the market is, but this is very difficult. I try to see what the market is for phosphoric fertilizers in Europe. It's very difficult. So you can ask some market parties, But to get a real complete view of what is the demand in Northwest Europe, even the Benelux is really a challenge. So yes, a part of the story is showing the possibilities, and the other part is trying to find out which market parties are active, which market parties are serious about finding new sourcings, new supply chains. And for instance, I experienced this with Gispe. And you have Gispe, Arendt, and another factories producing furniture. So I explicitly chose a Dutch party, but then halfway the project, and I can say it here because I don't think Gispen is listening, but halfway the project, this particular product was given to Arendt, and Arendt is a much more traditional company, so the whole project stopped. So part of the story is possibilities. The other part is trying to find people at the other end that are really serious about sustainability and the material transition.
Okay, clear. Thanks.
And I did see in the meantime some remarks added to the chat by Halil. Do you want to explain them further, Halil?
Not specifically, but yeah, as I wrote, I recommend you to look at the RVO website for energy hub subsidy schemes, and also we have a National Programma voor Duurzame Industrie, so the National Program for Sustainable Industry, where we try to cooperate with the government and also the industry, and we capture all the subsidies schemes, and also in technical routes for the industry, how to become more sustainable. And this is not a easy task, so that's why we are trying to capture all the best practices from the industry, but also we try to communicate and share the projects that are successful, that might be implemented within other companies.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
There are a lot of colleagues from RVO that visit the region to see actually how they can help support regional initiatives. So thanks for the tip again.
Any further questions? There's one thing, Davy, that triggered me on one of your very last slides, and I only could read part of the slides, but there I did see that you want to go from retail to commons, and there I wondered, it might relate a bit to the business models that you discussed based on Peter's question, but of course commons is not just a different business model, I would say it's a completely different economy. So what is needed to get there?
Yeah, and there I also see that there are small initiatives, or small, you can't even call them small, but so community agriculture, Herenboeren, Land van Ons, and 20 other initiatives. So that's quite local, and even we have a greenhouse horticultural grower who went bankrupt 15 years ago, Ron Zwet, and he now has a good livelihood by having allotments in the greenhouse in Almere. So that's now his different model. So he's actually just providing the greenhouse and they're producing their own food. But somewhere along the way, I think that it will be necessary to include the commons as more than just a happy few to the notion of local food production. And we have some connections with, for instance, in Berlin and Hamburg, where they are looking into real estate to make food production. And there, of course, you're going to go to a different model of retail. So maybe not adopt a cow, but somewhere along the way, you will be wanting to have a service as food or be more involved in your food. At this moment, it's not there yet. So how can this be also arranged regionally? I know that there are in the Bible Belt in the Netherlands, there are some very wealthy people buying up land, just also because they want to make sure that this will be producing a healthy food instead of housing. So you get some different model about how to bring food to people.
Okay, thank you. And I see another question from Irma. You're still muted, Irma.
Thank you. Yeah, thinking regional is important, but what I find remarkable and is also the value of carbon. I discovered that it's negatively valued. I'm now busy with a small assignment for the CO2 emission factors, and for Dutch woody carbon for energy. And what you see is that carbon is valued negatively when you go to, or neutral. So my biggest advice here is to value carbon as biogene emission. So
yeah.
Then the carbon is valued and it's not just burned, but the balance is, the afweging is made.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah. The trade-off.
The trade-off, of other uses is made. And this is life cycle analysis, and that's only, you are looking at saying that also, it's looking in one direction only. And it's not looking what's the real value of the carbon. And all those kind of, I thought little mind shifts are important.
Yeah, it's because somewhere along the way we found a way to make carbon again an instrument, and not only to evaluate systems, but actually to say we're compensating for carbon, and then you have to make a distinction. What kind of carbon are you talking about? And I fully agree. But it will also stay a bit that way, because I'm also seeing that the next step is, for instance, nature credits. But what is nature credits? How can you say something is nature and when is it not nature? So what is that? The CO2 discussion is really something that has the society hooked. But actually, to understand it, there's a long way.
Yeah, and just valuing having the carbon is already a start, I think. Yeah.
Jan, you want to jump in, or do you have another question? You're also muted.
I know I don't have another question. I just want to mention that this year there will be a thesis lab. I'm the coordinator for the horticulture sector for the Center of Sustainability of Leiden-Delft-Erasmus, and this year we will run a thesis, so-called thesis lab, on circularity in the horticulture sector, where 10 students will write their master thesis on specific parts of this topic. And 3 of the students were in the meeting today. 2 left already, but Leander is still there. So if anybody else is interested in this, you can contact Elise or me and to let us know, because we will spend more time and effort on this topic this year. It starts in February.
Yeah, warmly recommended. If there are no further questions.
There's two comments still in the chat, Ruud. One about the slides.
Not reading the chat. Yes, sorry for that. Let's go to the chat.
Up the
The slides will
there
be
will
shared.
Yeah.
And does it also require that Alexander has a question on investment models?
Yeah, so not only financing, but also investment models. They should not only look into return on investment, but actually what is the impact of what they're investing in. And yeah, you need some data for that, and we're way lacking the systems thinking and the data to support that. And yeah, I will be talking next year, Alexander, to some people looking into new investment models. So I'm happy to take that with me.
And Jan, is your hand still raised, or?
Sorry, I have to take it
Okay.
away. Yeah, sorry.
No further questions or remarks? Okay, in that case, I would like to thank Dewi once more and thank you all for participating. And I hope to see you in 2 weeks when we will have our very last online talk with Stefano Parisi, who is assistant professor at TU Delft, and he will present on material-driven design for regenerative material ecologies. Also warmly recommended. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.